I'm feeling comfortable already. It's the Max Home and New Bath Showroom, where you can find the latest in new bathtubs, showers, bath home products. Walk right in, get comfortable, be secure, feel great, enjoy yourself. I guarantee you, you will at New Bath. We're so happy to be here this evening, and a pleasant good evening to you. Ken Trahan with sportsNOLAtv coming to you from the New Bath Showroom, and we'll show you more later, and we'll also let you hear from Larry Kloss, who's the president, CEO, and owner of New Bath, and I know you will enjoy hearing about some of the outstanding products that they offer. And of course, you'll enjoy hearing from our panelists, including our regulars, starting with Brian Allee-Walsh of sportsNOLA.com. Brian, good evening to you.
Good evening, Mr. Trahan, and I look forward to a cleansing experience today here at New Bath.
And some would say you need one. In particular with that beard you wear.
We're starting off the show on a great note today.
Torrance Small, who doesn't need cleansing because he takes care of himself in great shape, but if he did, he would absolutely invest in New Bath. Former New Orleans Saints wide receiver joining us. Torrance, good evening to you.
Hey, good evening, Ken. Glad to be back. And Brian.
Yes, sir.
You do need a cleansing.
Oh, brother. I opened up a can of worms here, believe me.
We're in the right place for Brian today. The perfect place.
No question. And our special guest today is former Archbishop Shaw, Ole Miss, and New Orleans Saints quarterback, and about 8 other addresses I could mention somewhere along the lines where he played. John Fourcade, our good and great friend. John, good evening to you.
Well, thanks, Kenny, for being in. I'm not going to go to your route there about cleansing, because you do smell a little bit.
Oh, this just in. 4K threw another interception.
I hear you. But if you use a New Bath product, you will not smell anymore. In fact, you'll smell quite good. And we highly recommend that you do so because they do a great job with their products. You'll learn more about them coming up a little bit later on in the show about how you can get them and how this would make a great gift for Christmas. If you haven't done your shopping yet, you have an opportunity to do so now, so we encourage you to check it out. We'll take a brief time out here. When we return in just a moment, we'll take a hard look at the highlights, and I do mean highlights, of the New Orleans Saints' demolition of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when sportsNOLAtv continues here at New Bath Showroom. Saints are typically going to be involved in these games with 4 interceptions on one side, none on the other. I mean, listen, history suggests that, but that's a pretty interesting statistic to say the least, and obviously the Saints are very familiar with it. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv, New Bath Showroom, Max Home in Elmwood, and we encourage you to check out the outstanding products that New Bath Showroom has. You can walk right in and take care of yourself, whether it's a bath, shower, and do it a lot less expensively than you would with a traditional bathroom setup. Right now, we set up our guys to talk about the Saints' win over Tampa Bay. Very impressive, 41-0 shellacking of their rival in their division. And Torrance, we'll start with you. From the standpoint of the Saints playing so well, I'm not surprised that they won the game. I am surprised by the margin of victory, and it clearly told me that they haven't laid down, that they were still ready to play and play for jobs in many instances.
Yes, if you look at this game, when we look at this game, the one thing that we can see clearly, the Saints are not a bad team. It's just that we had a bad break early in the season. This team is trying to come together right now at the end. We're just missing a few pieces to make this a Super Bowl run team right now. I think we're just missing a few pass rushers, probably a few pieces on defense for us, a safety, and probably another cornerback to help us out. Offensively, probably get another offensive line, get some more depth in there. We had some injuries there this year. We lost a great lineman in Knicks. But I think we're a few pieces away. I like the way they started this game, and I love the way they finished it with the ball. I think to keep this up, these last 2 games, we can look promising up to next year.
Brian, it's hard to explain how they played 1 week at the Meadowlands and then turned around and played like this, other than to say, well, the obvious, their defense played well, and Drew Brees looked like Drew Brees.
You know, in keeping with today's theme, I would say that the Saints cleaned the Buccaneers' clock. That said, I hope you all got that little pun.
Hey,
You know, I'll tell you what, the difference in yesterday's game, in my opinion, Kenny, was that the Saints played very loose. Didn't you feel like they just played like going out like they should have played on other occasions? Now, granted, let's be honest here. The opponent that they played yesterday, I'm not sure what Tampa Bay team showed up yesterday, but it wasn't the Tampa Bay team that we had seen maybe the first half of the season. I warned Saints fans, Kenny, we've talked about this, I warned Saints fans all, do not be fooled by this game. Do not be fooled by this stretch run, okay? They're going to play good football. They may even run the table here, but it shouldn't cover over, shouldn't camouflage the problems or the personnel decisions they need to make during the offseason. They need to analyze this team with a fine-tooth comb because they need to upgrade their roster at certain positions.
John, I think the season has kind of gotten long for Tampa Bay. They've lost, 4 in a row now. They've been exposed for what they are. They're missing their 2 guards, and obviously that's hurt them, but I just don't think they're very good. That said, when you look at the Saints' defensive effort, one thing was not present yesterday, Malcolm Jenkins. And in the 2 deep, you had Rafael Bush and Issa Abdul-Quddus. And I thought both did a pretty good job. Talk about that dynamic, if you will.
Well, Brian made a comment in regards to Tampa Bay, and you made it as well. This team lost 10 games in a row to finish last season. They're on a stretch right now, possibly can lose 6 in a row. So you look at that team playing against the New Orleans Saints, and you sit there and say, well, what was brought to the table? The defense. A shutout is a shutout. In the NFL, it is hard to do. I told you guys I'd have kicked the field goal at the end of the game not to have the shutout. But overall, from the way I'm looking at things, the way I look at things right now is the fact that if you look at the New Orleans Saints defense, 2 new fresh blood was in there. Those players played hard, played really good. Malcolm Jenkins, I hate to say this, but you might be in a little bit of trouble back there because these guys did play better. Defense did play much better than we've seen 2 weeks ago against the New York Giants. So overall right now, Kenny, you have to give the defense credit. Spagnuolo did something. Maybe Joe Vitz coming back and helped the defense, but that defense has played really good football in the last 6 weeks.
I agree to a certain point. But wait a minute. You're talking about Colin Kaepernick. You're talking about Eli Manning and Matt Ryan. That we're talking about the previous 3 games here. Josh Freeman doesn't fit in any of the mold with those guys. So I'm not ready to anoint these 2 safeties as better than Malcolm Jenkins or even Roman Harper for that matter.
Right.
But they covered ground. I will say that.
Well against the 49ers now. Who lost the game for the 49ers against Saints? Drew Brees' offense giving up 2 touchdowns.
Right.
It wasn't the defense.
Right.
Defense played well.
No, my point is just the safeties that we're talking about. I'm not ready to move them in and move the guys out yet, okay? That's all.
Well, they were given opportunities, Torrance, and they did a good job. And again, this isn't a Malcolm Jenkins bashing session. We're just pointing out the obvious.
Yeah.
He did not play. They pitched a shutout, and the guys that did play both made plays in this game.
The one thing we can't say about these young guys is this is the one thing. When young guys come into a game, haven't been playing much, the one thing a coach wants to see is consistency. Consistency and fundamental, being where you're supposed to be. That's what those guys did. Being where they're supposed to be, then they got an opportunity to make plays. Guess what? They made the play. We haven't been making those plays. They made the play. That's the difference. You can look at it however you want to look at it. Is it a competition? The whole NFL is nothing but competing. At practice, you compete. You compete for your job all the time. Those guys went out there. They showed they were ready to compete. They showed they want this job, and I think they have an opportunity to fight for it.
Number one draft picks, John. Jenkins, Ellis, Robinson. I could go on. Meacham, who's not here anymore. Bush, who's not here. You have a guy in Cameron Jordan that looks like he's legitimate in terms of being a number 1 pick and was worth the investment.
Right. We have made comments all year long in regards to where's Ellis been. He hasn't showed up. You know, he was there for the coin toss, I believe, and give the who dat sign. That's it. But Cameron Jordan stepped up. Some of the other guys hasn't stepped up. Now, you know who stepped up too yesterday was Jabari Greer. 2 picks. It brings out a lot when these other players are looking at the younger guys making plays. The older guys now are starting to make better plays and big plays for New Orleans Saints. So if they can keep this up in the offseason, like we all discussed this, they got to go out and get them some better players if this defense wants to improve. They just got to be in the top 15. They don't have to be number 1 through 5. Get the top 15th in the league. I think it'll be a big difference.
Yeah, I know we're talking about defense, but let's go to the offensive side. Offensive side, Joe Morgan. Here's a young guy that's stepping up as well. Hey, Devin Henderson, you need to step it up or you're going to have to step out. Here's a guy that stretches the field, something that he used to do, and he's making plays. is getting the opportunity. Young guys, whenever you get the opportunity, one thing about the NFL, that's how I got in. That's how I got the opportunity to play. The Eric Martins and the Floyd Turners in the early, when these guys went down, got hurt, they gave me my opportunity, and I didn't give it back. Guys, if you get this opportunity, do not give it back to these guys.
And I got to believe, Brian, that right now, Robert Meacham's probably wishing he was back here. Maybe not Carl Nix, but certainly Meacham, given the circumstances. In particular, looking at Morgan, who's pretty much becoming an heir apparent to the deep threat that the Saints have been seeking and pretty much replacing Devery Henderson.
Yeah, I agree. I think Devery we might be seeing the end of the road for Devery over the next couple of games. And I think, as you know, we talked about this with Curtis Johnson last week. Joe Morgan's got a lot of potential. And you know what potential means. Jim Moore means you haven't done it yet. But I'll tell you what, he's showing more of that ability each and every week when given an opportunity. And, you know, he caught 2 balls for 60-some yards, a touchdown for 34. But he also caused that pass interference penalty that put him in scoring position as well. So, you know what, that's what this team needs. They need a deep threat. Robert Meacham gave it to him. Devery has in the past. And maybe Joe Morgan's the answer down the road.
And then there's Mark Ingram, who continues to look like he's legitimate in terms of a starting running back in the NFL.
Kenny, he's like the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Which one's going to show up at which time? And he played well last night. He's played well in spurts throughout the season. But still, I believe this. There's too many running backs in this team to go out and play. 3 running backs, fine. You can't play 5 running backs in the NFL to get any continuity with your offense. But this is a passing team. We all know that. And these guys that played running back for the Saints, you're going to get your chances, your 5 or 6 touches, do well when you get those touches.
And you're right. They lined up with Cadet in the backfield on a couple of occasions. He either tried to throw him a pass, which was read very well by the Tampa Bay defense, but the Saints have a plethora of guys there. Maybe there's a chance to bait someone into giving you something for one of these players down the road. And where that's concerned, Chris Ivory has a ton of ability, but he's got to be on the field to be able to recognize that potential that Brian spoke of. Otherwise, you're going to rely on the guys that are going to be there on a regular basis and guys that remain healthy enough to continue to play. We'll take a timeout here. When we return in just a moment, we'll take a trip around the NFL and review what happened this past weekend as Sports NOLA TV continues from New Bath Showroom in Elmwood. Our Sports NOLA trivia question of the evening. Josh Freeman became the 13th quarterback to throw 4 interceptions against the Saints. Which of these quarterbacks is not on that list? Hope that doesn't confuse you. Who has not thrown 4 interceptions against the Saints? Bert Jones, Joe Montana, Fran Tarkenton, or Kurt Warner? That's a who's who list there. Think about it. See if you can come up with the correct answer. We'll have the correct answer for you a little bit later on in the show. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV from New Bath Showroom in Elmwood. Time now to take a trip around the NFL and take a look at scores from this past weekend and get a clue about what's happening about the playoffs as a result. First of all, you had Cincinnati taking care of Philadelphia in the early week game. Atlanta blanks the Giants. That's right, the Giants get shut out a week after they score over 50 points. More on that coming up. Denver doubles up Baltimore. Their winning streak continues. Green Bay impressive, winning at Chicago. They clinched the division. Chicago's in trouble. Washington, doesn't matter who quarterbacks, they win. Beat Cleveland by 17. Houston takes care of the Colts, and they secure what they are looking for, getting that home field advantage. They're close to getting it for the entire AFC playoffs. Miami, in the Battle of Florida, wins easily over Jacksonville. Minnesota behind perhaps the league's MVP and Adrian Peterson over St. Louis. Arizona rolled Detroit. Go figure, after they got murdered by Seattle the previous week. Speaking of Seattle, second straight week over 50 points, beat Buffalo easily on the road. Carolina looked very good again. Second straight week, they rolled San Diego. Good game at Jerry World. Dallas in overtime over Pittsburgh, 27-24. Kansas City shut out Oakland. How bad are the Raiders? And a very good game on Sunday night. San Francisco a gigantic lead and then had to hold on to win in New England, but they won there nonetheless. Very impressive. 41-34. Monday night game, Jets, their faint hopes alive at Tennessee to take on the Titans. So a lot of things that we could point to there but there are certainly 3 or 4 of those results that stand out. Torrance, we'll start with you. What did you find impressive about what transpired in the league on Sunday?
Here's a team that's very quiet, Seattle. You don't hear much about Seattle, but these last 2 games, they've scored over 50 points. Their defense is playing lights out. Here's a team that you have to pay attention to in this playoff coming up.
Yeah, I agree. I like the idea that Seattle can go and take their game on the road, and they've done it now in Chicago, and now they played in Toronto yesterday to beat Buffalo. But the surprise to me is, I'm sure it is to all you guys, here's the New York Giants. They scored 52 points. They could have scored more against the Saints a week ago. They go to Atlanta, and this is a must game for the Giants. I mean, they're fighting for their playoff lives now, but they're fighting to win the NFC East, and they go lay a goose egg. I'm not an Atlanta fan, but I'll tell you what, that was an impressive win to shut them out 34-zip. That's a big win for Atlanta.
Big win.
And I'm going to correct real quick. Oakland Raiders beat the Kansas City Chiefs, just to let you know. It's 15-0. It was wrong.
Yeah,
on
I had
the
that
score.
backwards.
But the Ravens, of all teams, Baltimore Ravens, who fired the offensive coordinator a week ago and stunk it up yesterday, and they go into the playoff with a 9-4 team and fire their offensive coordinator. The Ravens right now with Joe Flacco are reeling the wrong way. I don't see them making the playoffs.
No, Cincinnati certainly has a real chance, in my mind, to catch them. Pittsburgh, I'm not sure about that team at this particular point in time. But I think you have to look at San Francisco and Green Bay with what they were able to do. Both going on the road, both beating playoff caliber teams. In the case of Green Bay, taking care of their division and getting closer to clinching at least one round of a home game, if not more. In the case of San Francisco, trying to stay alive for home field advantage. Who goes to New England and wins in December? Answer is nobody. They were 20-0 in December in their last 20 games. Make that 20-1. The 49ers are the real deal and a definite threat to go to the Super Bowl as a result. As a result of these games, let's take a look at what the playoff picture looks like as the conferences continue to stack up pretty interestingly. First of all, the NFC, where Atlanta is on top still. San Francisco would be the 2. Green Bay in the 3 slot. The Washington Redskins at number 4. The aforementioned Seahawks at 5. And the Vikings are at number 6. On the outside looking in, Chicago, Dallas, the Giants. Those are the 3 really that you want to look at. Still got the Saints listed there at number 11. Why, I have no idea. But they're there nonetheless. So that's the NFC playoff picture. Let's take a look at the AFC playoff picture as we flip it around and find that the Houston Texans are still number 1. Denver, just a game back. They are nipping at their heels with that long winning streak. New England now drops to 3. Remember that. Baltimore is 4. Indianapolis in the 5 slot. Cincinnati has moved up to 6. Pittsburgh on the outside looking in. The Jets have to win, and Miami still has a pulse in the AFC. Okay, we talked about some of the guys in terms of teams that are going to be there. Let's talk about who's going to make it first and foremost. Torrance, in the NFC, of those teams jockeying for the 5 and 6 spots, we know that Atlanta's going to be there, San Francisco is going to be there, Green Bay is going to be there. We're sure of that. Who's going to get in those final 2 spots in your mind?
Again, I'm hold on to Dallas. I said Dallas is going to sneak in there. I think Dallas is going to sneak in there in one of those spots. We know Seattle is going to get the other spot. The other teams, you're going to be left out. Hopefully a better shot next year. But my picks right now are Dallas and Seattle for the last 2 spots.
Brian?
I like the Redskins to win the East, and I wouldn't count out the Giants just yet. Okay, but I'm with you. Oh, I'm against you.
But you
I think the Cowboys, for some reason, I think they've got a little dog left in them.
Yeah,
I
think they just been finding ways.
Yes, they have.
For whatever reason, they
Yeah.
haven't been. They're not a good team.
All right, we'll find out.
But they
Play the
just
Saints
finding
this
ways.
week, right? John?
Yeah, I go with Brian on this one. I think the Washington Redskins will win the division. I think they win the division, and Seattle's the other seed that can get in, because if the 49ers win their division, Seattle's got to go in as a wild card. And I think the other team is going to be the Washington Redskins. So right now I don't see much for the Dallas Cowgirls winning this weekend.
I like the Redskins, too. I think they're going to win the division. They run the ball well. Regardless of who plays quarterback, they win. And Jim Haslett has done an outstanding job with this defense. No Brian Arakpo, and they just moved on like he wasn't there, which he isn't. and they played extremely well, and they confused people. Schematically, they're very good. They've gained a lot of confidence. I'm real big on that team. In Seattle, as we mentioned before, they run the ball like crazy. Russell Wilson's played very well. Their defense has stepped up. They're forcing turnovers, and they're very tough to beat at home. So I think they're another team to keep an eye on. As for Dallas, I don't know. I mean, listen, they've played better over the last couple of weeks, and they're capable with their receivers and with Tony Romo of making plays. Defensively, Spencer and Ware are very tough to block, but they have a lot of holes, in particular in the secondary, overtime notwithstanding, against the Steelers and Big Ben. Speaking of which, how about him pretty much taking apart Todd Haley as offensive coordinator for the play calling? Doesn't sit very well with me, and it doesn't point to very good things. Okay, about a minute left in this segment. Sean Payton, the news just continues on him, and now the latest. We all know that Jay Glazer is a close associate of his, Brian, and I'm addressing you because you're in the media. He'll tell him things that he won't tell us.
Yeah, I mean, you have to believe that this is a well-aimed leak on game day Sunday. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And you said it perfectly, Kenny. Jay Glazer, to have information from Sean Payton, I think it's legit, and I think there are some problems there.
We'll take a timeout. When we return, we'll talk about the Big East Conference as we put Brian on the hot seat on sportsNOLAtv on WHNO Channel 20. Our SportsNOLA trivia question of the evening. Josh Freeman became the 13th quarterback to throw 4 interceptions against the Saints. Which of these quarterbacks is not on that list? Is it Burt Jones, Joe Montana, Fran Tarkenton, or Kurt Warner? Answer is Joe Montana. Played the Saints more than any of the others, and he never threw 4 picks against the Saints, which probably explains why the 49ers beat the Saints most of the time. Of course, they beat everybody most of the time in those days. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv at the New Bat Showroom in Elmwood. Time now to put Brian Allee-Walsh on the hot seat. And what a difference a week makes. Our special guest last week was CJ Curtis Johnson, who was ecstatic about Tulane entering the Big East Conference. Later on that evening, we suddenly found out that the Big East wasn't so big after all, because a number of schools were preparing to depart. That has since become a reality. So, Brian, on our hot seat segment, I ask you, where does this leave Tulane, and what of the Big East Conference and what these schools have decided to do, these 7 parochial schools, and also, as I mentioned, where Tulane stands in this league as we speak? Your thoughts?
Well, based on what we've learned over the weekend, you can refer to this conference as the Big Least. They've lost, they potentially are going to lose 7 basketball powers. And when I think, let's give Tulane the benefit of the doubt here. There's no doubt that they were not aware of this kind of, the potential for this kind of move by the Catholic schools in the Big East. So I would definitely look into, if I'm Tulane, I would definitely see what you can do to remedy the situation. That said, is that part of the drawing power, in my opinion, for Tulane to join the Big East was because of its influential alumni on the East Coast, in the Northeast. That would have been that was a big reason for them to perhaps join this conference. And this is not, it's almost a form of bait and switch in sports today. This was not what they bargained for when they talked or when they decided to make the move. So I'm hoping that Tulane looks long and hard if there is a chance for them, if they want to get out, that they can get out without paying any penalties, because this is not the conference that they were looking for when they made the decision to go in.
Yeah, I definitely think they should try to get out. One, here you have a new coach coming in. You're trying to get a new stadium. You think you're going to get in a new conference and all, and it's going to bring a lot of attention to the school, help you out with your recruiting and all. But you come and you get this blow. I think they didn't know. I think they should get ready to pack up and get out of there, because this is bad. This is bad for the school, and I feel sorry for CJ. Here's a good guy now. He has to go through this. There's already enough on his plate trying to get recruits, trying to build the program up, and then you get a blow like this. That definitely hurts the school.
And I'm trying to figure out right now is the Big East, San Diego State, Boise State, I don't know, Hawaii, are you in there too? I don't know who's in it. Anybody wants to play the Big East, you can play anywhere. I think you can come from Canada.
London.
How do you have a Big East conference? You got schools all over, and then they're going to play sports-only football. I don't understand. Tulane, you're in a jam right now. Find a way to get out of it. I don't know if you want to go back to where you're at. I don't know, get somewhere. But the Catholic League is coming back now, see, with these 7 schools. So we don't have it no more in New Orleans, the Catholic League. Maybe these 7 teams can develop the Catholic League.
Well, I
in
think
college football.
they're going to determine whether they're going to play up or not, I think.
They're going to play up. They're going to play up. They're going to go to Canada and play. They call it the big Canadian League.
Here's the deal. Obviously, Tulane, when they decided to move into the Big East, this was not what they bargained for.
Right.
No.
Right? I mean, it just wasn't what they bargained for. Does it make them more viable as a team? I don't know if it does or not. I don't think so. One, because I think they moved with the idea that they were going to still have these basketball powers in there. So this isn't what they bargained for. And again, I hope that they can find some kind of mitigation that they can get out.
Yeah, 'cause you know, recruiting is big. Now, we were just talking to Curtis about you might be able to go on the West Coast and get some recruits. And now you look at this, it's in disarray. I just don't understand that. I know he has to be pulling the little bitty hair like myself out that he has in his head because it's just unthinkable right now what these guys are going to.
Where's the hair in your head?
No, I totally agree, guys. It's embarrassing right now to have recruits want to know what is going on. But this is all the fault of the NCAA. Letting teams come in this week, out that week. You're pulling out here. I mean, it's ridiculous. The NCAA has got to step up, make a decision about this, and then give them a time frame. You just can't keep going on and on and on, and a week before you start, think, I'm pulling out, I'm leaving. It puts Tulane in a bad situation right now, and what's going to happen with Tulane, we don't know.
But you said something right. NCAA, you're at fault with this as well. You guys can't sit back and just let things happen like this. You know, these are schools, these are students that are involved with this. I think they need to step in and do something to mitigate this problem that they have right now.
Well, I tell you, I would love to know what Mr. Dixon is thinking, and I know that there's been attempts to try and reach them and get some kind of statement, some kind of an indication on where they're going to go from here. Look, I'm sure they're looking into every possibility as what can we do here. I would be curious to see what they can do, Kenny.
Well, time to render a judgment here, so the gavel's being banged on a very interesting surface, I might add, here at New Bad Showroom. But let's look at this list. Temple, Connecticut, Cincinnati. These are basketball schools primarily, and by the way, pretty good ones. Memphis, SMU, Houston, Central Florida, as you take a look at the members. Boise State, San Diego State, Navy, East Carolina, of course, some for football only. Navy joins the league in 2015, and this configuration of what they refer to as the Big East, although that is also objectionable to the schools leaving because they'd like to keep the name, doesn't kick in until 2014, so this is fluid. Things will likely change again before we ever see this league get to fruition. What happens by then remains to be seen. Here's the skinny. Tulane tried to better itself. You have to commend them for doing so. In the process, they got embarrassed because this was clearly a blindside move on the part of these other schools. Obviously, Tulane did not expect this. And it begs this particular question. Why in the world were these schools not polled prior to accepting Tulane for admission? Have you ever heard of a conference accepting a school without approving them prior to? Or was this just a setup? Was this just one of these situations where Tulane was being used as a pawn to enable these schools to say, okay, that's it, they're the reason we're getting out? It is damning when an athletic director from another institution, who, by the way, has a relative working at Tulane, comes on and says, we're getting out because of them, because they're a non-factor, because they'll kill our RPI in basketball. And oh, by the way, they haven't done anything in football for a decade. So the bottom line is this. Tulane made their bed. They didn't do a good enough job of making themselves attractive enough to enough people. They got into a league they thought was pretty good, and it's not the league they got into at all. Still, at this moment, it's better than where they were. When we return in just a moment, we'll move on, and we'll tell you all about New Bad Showroom. Plus, we'll talk about what's to come with the Saints as Sports NOLA TV continues. Welcome back to Sports NOLA TV. Today we are broadcasting from the Max Home and New Bath Showroom, where you can find the latest in new bathtubs and showers and Max Home products. With us today is Larry Kloss, who's the owner and president and CEO. And it's great to be here, Larry. Thanks for having us here.
Thanks, Ken. Thank you for coming.
Tell us a little bit about why your products, like the one behind me, would make such a good Christmas gift this time of the year.
Here's the main reason. You get to enjoy it not just all year long, but for almost a lifetime of our tubs and showers. What they do is they change people's lives. People go from having their buying, just think how many people going into Christmas this year completely embarrassed by their bathroom. They want to have people over for Christmas, but don't use the bathroom. Don't use the bathroom. Not only do we change that, someone starts their day in a nasty bathroom. Well, how does that make them feel? We can come into someone's house and in one day give them a brand new bathroom at half the cost of traditional remodeling, and they'll start their day beautiful. It really is life-changing.
What's special about your products as compared to a traditional bathroom?
A couple things. One, we do it in one day. That means if you only have one bathroom or if you don't want weeks and weeks of contractors, we come in and do it in one day. Two, through our special process, we do it about half the cost of traditional remodeling, so you can save a lot of money. Three, everything we do is non-porous. What that means is no scrubbing ever. You just wipe our products off. Hair dye, permanent markers, you name it, crayons, anything that you want, you put on it, just wipe it off. You'll never have to scrub again, and that makes a big difference.
Tell our viewers about how they can find out more about New Bath and the entire product line.
Well, the easiest way is to call 1-800-NEW-BATH. That's 1-800-639-2284, or log on at newbathnow.com. And we also have our sister company, Max Home, which offers windows, outdoor living. We do all the outdoor living for Home Depot. We're in 18 Home Depot stores here, and radiant barrier insulation and rain soft water softeners.
When you look at companies in the metropolitan New Orleans area, this is one of the fastest growing companies that exists, one of the 10 fastest growing. So clearly you've hit on something here, and clearly the consumers are buying in.
Clearly the consumers are buying in. We've made the Inc. 5,000 list for 3 years in a row, and we've been in the top 10 fastest growing companies in Louisiana for 3 years in a row. And the consumers are buying in, and it's all how we treat customers. I mean, Max Home, we have a saying at Max Home, get Max and relax. People have a lot of choices in their when they're making home improvement choices. And what we want them to know is when you choose us, you can relax. We're going to take care of you. We have a person whose sole job, she's a customer happiness coordinator. She's there just to keep customers happy. That's all she does all day.
That sounds like a good job. I like that. She's smiling all the time, I would imagine.
She's trying to smile all the time. I mean, people do have problems, but our goal is if you do have a problem, we fix it, and we fix it fast.
$25,000 home makeover. Tell us about that and how people can become eligible for it.
Well, 3 times a year we give away a different product, and it adds up to a $25,000 home makeover. Just go to either one of our websites, newbathnow.com or maxhomenow.com, and either website has an entry form, and you can enter right there. You can win windows, bathrooms, insulation, you name it. It's a great way to get the product you're looking for.
And we've been showing people a phone number and everything else, and of course you're located in Elmwood, so pretty easy for anybody to access.
Yeah, we're located in Elmwood, but really what's nice about us is we make it easy for people, and we go to their homes. Anywhere where you're watching this, we will come and see you and help design the bathroom, help show you our window products, help design a backyard paradise for you. We go to wherever you are. We want to make it easy for them.
And clearly, I would imagine you've exceeded expectations rather than met them to this point in time.
That's what we try to do. We try to exceed expectations. That's the one way that you can make people happy, and that's what we do to make people happy.
Well, obviously, it's been a great get, and it's great to be with you today, Larry. Thanks so much for the visit. Keep up the great work, and let us know how we can help you in the future, because we appreciate affiliating with a company that's doing it the right way and being very successful.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Thank you all at home, too. Thank you.
All right, we'll take a brief time out. We'll return with more of Sports NOLA TV in just a moment here on WHNO Channel 20. New Bath Showroom, located in Elmwood, and you can see the website newbathnow.com, or you can call 1-800-NEW-BATH. You want great walk-in bathtub, showers, Max Home products, you're going to get them from New Bath. And again, the information is very easy. To go to the website or to go to 1-800-NEW-BATH. That's an easy number to recognize. Just let your fingers do the dialing and do so, and find out about the outstanding products that they have. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV, as we continue on. The bowl season has begun. And of course, New Orleans figures prominently in the bowl season with not one but 2 bowl games, the first of which is coming up this weekend on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. It's the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. East Carolina at 8-4, Louisiana Lafayette at 8-4. A couple of teams that beat Tulane this year. Pirates coming to the New Orleans Bowl for the first time ever. Cajuns won a thriller last year over San Diego State, one of the best bowl games played a year ago. It's a good matchup on the field, and it's a good matchup in the stands, Brian, because these schools will bring fans, and they will likely break last year's attendance record.
I have to ask you guys to answer this question. Did East Carolina beat Tulane in the Dome?
Yes.
they did.
Then they have a chance to do something that's a rarity, win 2 games in the Superdome in one season. Although I like Mark Hudspeth's team, I like the Raging Cajuns. Bring it on, baby.
Well, if it's going to be any excitement like it was last year, I tell you, that was a thriller last year. Hopefully they can match that thriller and hope they get the crowd to bring some revenue to the city.
Hudspeth's gotten a lot of attention, and rightfully so, and he's drawn interest from other schools, John, and that's a good thing.
Yes, I'm surprised that he's still at ULL right now, but I give him one more year. He does another year like he's played this season with his team. I see him moving on to other. Ole Miss was trying to get him there at Ole Miss. You know, Ole Miss is in a bowl this year. Is Indiana in a bowl? No!
What about Alcorn?
Waiting on that, haven't you?
Yes, we're in the
He's been waiting.
We played our bowl game.
He was just holding on, waiting to use that
He has been
at some
waiting all
point
day.
here this evening. Bottom line is, when it comes to bowl games, it's all about drawing power because none of these games seem to mean a whole lot, Brian, when you look at the grand scheme of things. And we'll get to the Sugar Bowl in a moment, which is a perfect illustration of it.
Absolutely, Kenny. That's a great point you bring up. You know, when you scan the bowl horizon, if you will, and you look at the national championship, of course, everybody that loves football is interested in that game.
Yeah.
There's not many other bowl games, though, that really just
Yeah.
catch your attention because the meaning has dropped out of it.
And my point is, the Sugar Bowl has Florida, Louisville, and they're having trouble selling tickets because that one school, Florida, thought they'd be playing in the national championship game, or thought they should be, and therefore they don't look at it in very big fashion. In Louisville, just not a big draw, apparently, even though Charlie Strong, their coach, is a former Florida coach, which makes for a pretty good story. All right, the Chick-fil-A Bowl, that's where LSU is heading, and this is a very good matchup as the Tigers are taking on the Tigers. And they're both 10-2, and they both play at a place called Death Valley. One interprets a Tiger as being orange, the other yellow gold, I guess. Bottom line is this, should be a very entertaining game. Clemson's very good offensively. LSU's very good defensively, Torrance. This is one of those classic matchups. Which one is going to prevail?
I think it's a great matchup. I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be one of the better games in this bowl season. I like Clemson. They can put up some points. Then again, we have LSU. We have a solid defense, good solid defense that they're running behind. Hopefully, we get the excitement that we're looking for. All the hype that's out there with the same name as the Death Valley Stadiums and the Tigers. Who's going to prevail? I don't know, but I'm pulling for LSU.
And after last year's debacle in the championship game, Brian, I would imagine LSU will be motivated to play well in this bowl game.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of Tiger fans that are not happy with this game, but I think it's a good example or a good chance for LSU to go out on a good positive note and get ready for next year. I look for it could be one of the most entertaining bowl games that we're going to see.
And John, they got knocked out of the Cotton Bowl because A, they played Oregon in that stadium last year. B, they're going to play TCU in that stadium next year. And C, Johnny Football was available.
Oh, yeah, you want to definitely pick the homegrown guy and the Heisman Trophy winner. But I'll have to go on a limb right now, guys. I'm going to pick a Tiger is going to win the game in a Chick-fil-A. A Tiger will win that game. I think LSU wins this football game. I think they're the better team. And people all out there listening to us, SEC. It's all we got to say, SEC.
John Fourcade for city constable, you know what I mean? Politician galore here. Tigers are going to win, I guess. The Saints, meanwhile, head to that same stadium we talked about in the Cotton Bowl, Jerry World, to take on the Cowboys at Cowboy Stadium. I guess we could possibly refer to this, Brian, as the Peyton Bowl.
Yeah. Kenny, I tell you what, I generally do not root for or against. You try to stay, nonpartisan here. But I tell you what, I am not a Cowboys fan, and I would love to see the Saints knock them out of the playoff chase. Love it.
Last time the Saints played there, Torrance, was on Thanksgiving afternoon, and that was probably Malcolm Jenkins' most memorable play He basically stole the football and won a game for them in the process.
Yes, this game here, defense is going to have to show up. Tony Romo and his group has been playing pretty good offensively. They have the Marcus, what's the running back name? I'm sorry, if you guys can help me out. Murray. He's coming back. He's playing well for him. He give them a running game. They have more balance now. I think this is going to be an offensive shootout. Defensively, I think we're going to see what we're made of. Can we match what we did last week? I don't think we can match, but can we be more consistent this week when we go against the Cowboys?
John, how do you see this game?
I see the Saints winning this ball game. Saints own Dallas in Dallas. It looks at the track record the last few seasons. And the Cowboys haven't played well enough at home when they do play at home. They've been winning some ball games barely, but they've been losing more at home. Their record at home right now is not very good in the NFL in Jerry's Wally's world.
All right, the upcoming schedule for the Saints, well, it's only 2 games because there are only 2 games remaining after the game at Dallas. Carolina comes to town, and they played a lot better of late, Brian.
They have, and you remember what the Cam Newton and the team did to them in the first game. So, I tell you what, this is a great opportunity for the Saints to run the table, finish 8-8, and look ahead to next year.
6-10, 7-9, 8-8. How do they finish, Torrance?
These last 2, I think 1-1.
Okay, John.
They win them both, and they end up 8-8 and split for the season and regroup this offseason and look for that new head coach.
Yeah, I kind of think 7-9 is how they end up, but regardless, it is what it is. Brian, a pleasure as always. Torrance, a pleasure. John, thank you for being here, my friend. Always great to have you.
Anytime for you, Kenny, and Torrance, anytime for you.
I knew he was going to say that.
No problem, man.
What a good man. And
hey,
for
Brian.
John and Brian and Torrance, for Adam and Andrew and Lenny and Bob and the entire crew, now this is Ken Trahan from New Bath Showroom saying thanks for joining us and be a good sport. God bless you one and all, rounding third and heading home. So long.